Welcome to the Project Scale overview. Project Scale is funded by the U.S. Department of Education in collaboration with Southern Methodist University, the University of Missouri, and the University of Texas. Our fourth partner is the American Institutes for Research. They are our external evaluator. Fraction Face-Off was originally designed by Dr. Lynn Fuchs from Vanderbilt University. The original study that was designed for Fraction Face-Off utilized graduate research assistants going into classrooms and doing the intervention with students in small groups. Excuse me. Through that study, the What Works Clearinghouse, which is like Consumer Reports for education, published the intervention as an efficacious intervention with promising results due to the outcomes in general math, geometry and measurement, and fractions. Fraction Face-Off is designed to supplement Tier 1 instruction and be utilized in Tier 2 or Tier 3 instruction. The goal of this project is to identify if the positive treatment effects continue with diverse populations in grades 4 through 8. These positive treatment effects were the ones that were found in the prior study. For the 24-25 school year, we will be working in 4th and 5th grade. Scale is really valuable for students, specifically because it focuses on prerequisite skills and fractions, all the way through a little bit of 5th grade content with adding and subtracting fractions. Think about your early childhood students and how they learn about whole numbers. And then we put two whole numbers on top of each other with a line in between, and we call that a fraction. It's really challenging for students to shift their thinking from whole numbers to fractional values. So the hope is that we continue to see efficacious outcomes that will help us with the prior research that shows that a deeper understanding of fractions leads to greater success in middle school math. Fraction knowledge, as you know, is a gatekeeper to algebra and is a central contributor to math achievement. Because during the pandemic, many of these students did not have as much exposure to conceptual understanding with fractions, the hope is that intervening in fractions in upper elementary school will accelerate students' math learning for pandemic recovery. It's important to note that Fraction Face-Off has a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. By starting so early and going back to skills like what is a numerator, what is a denominator, how do we compare fractions, how do we order fractions, and then ultimately, how do we add and subtract fractions? These skills will really support students in being prepared for middle school. Additionally, it has a measurement model focus. Students focus on placing and comparing and ordering fractions through the use of a number line. They also use the models of fraction circles and fraction tiles. First, they develop their conceptual understanding, and then they develop fluency with things like 1/2 over time. As you're aware, at-risk children often experience limited working memory capacity, sometimes have inattentive behavior, and their processing speed can be slower. Fraction Face-Off was designed to mitigate these challenges that students have. The skills in Fraction Face-Off are chunked or segmented into small bite-sized chunks, and they spiral throughout the entire curriculum. Students also work on creating automaticity with fraction values. For example, 1/2 is a benchmark that is utilized throughout the program. And lastly, there is a focus on supporting students with behavior and hard work. This is done through the theme. There's a sports theme in Fraction Face-Off, and students work to stay on task with their peers and solve individual contest problems correctly, and they earn fraction dollars, and the fraction dollars can be traded in the fraction store for prizes. We know that educators these days have a lot of tasks and priorities on their plates. So the hope is that through instructional support with prepared lesson plans, strategies, and ongoing professional development, teachers can have ownership over a sustainable evidence-based intervention that will give them more confidence and lead to more success as they are working on Tier 1 instruction and their intervention instruction. We hope that the training that we provide supports teachers in understanding best practices for being able to use evidence-based intervention practices with students and gain additional confidence for teachers in their ever increasing workload. So what does fraction face-off look like? It is designed to be delivered 3 times a week over a 12-week period. That is the original intent. However, for this study, we have schools that are doing it anywhere between 2 and 5 days a week, depending on what your needs at the campus are. It is 36 lessons that are approximately 30 minutes each. Students have 5 components for each lesson. First, there's a training. The training is where a new concept or skill is introduced, and manipulatives are used to really help students be able to see and understand that new concept. Then the students move into a collaborative part of the lesson, driven by the teacher supporting students in working problems that were newly learned in the training or cumulatively have been learned over time as a group. Then, starting with lesson 10, students build fluency. So, for example, in lessons 1 through 9, there is a focus on understanding what is 1/2, how do you use the doubling rule to identify if a fraction is equivalent to 1/2. And then in lesson 10, students have 1 minute to be able to identify, is it half or is it not half? They are given flashcards and we go through and they try to see how many questions they can get correct. However, one of my favorite parts about this component of the lesson is that students are then given a corrections procedure if they get it incorrect. So rather than place it in a pile for not correct, we immediately use a correction procedure to support the students in ultimately getting the question correct. Over time, as students increase the number of problems they are able to answer in the fraction sprint, they earn additional fraction bucks. Then finally, students work independently on a few problems to demonstrate their understanding in independent work. And lastly, they document their score and get corrective feedback. So the teacher may go over one of the problems. They may assign there are bonus problems that are regularly assigned. And if students get the bonus problems right, then they also earn a $50. So what's really important to know is although there are 36 lessons, we also administer pre and post measures to the students and to the teachers to better understand the impact of fraction face-off. Anyone who regularly works with 4th or 5th grade or 4th and 5th grade students in an intervention setting can serve as an interventionist. We support general education teachers, special education teachers, instructional aid, small group tutors, and academic coaches. Anyone who is working to provide intervention to 4th and 5th grade or 4th or 5th grade students is eligible. We also provide training to participating interventionists. So as you can see, the past 2 years, we worked in 4th grade. This upcoming year for the 24-25 school year, we'll be working in 4th and 5th grade classrooms. The study is seeking to answer a few questions. This year, we have been focused on replicating the prior results and delivering it with 4th grade students to identify, do the positive treatment effects hold when FFO is delivered to a diverse population of 4th graders? The very last question is also important because we are currently studying the effectiveness of the virtual training. We will be determining based on this year's outcomes and last year's outcomes if virtual training or face-to-face training has more efficacious results for students. And then moving into next year, we'll continue to look at the impact on 5th grade students to see if, although the study was designed for 4th grade students, can it support 5th grade students in the same way to help them increase student achievement. So for the 24-25 school year, 4th and 5th grade interventionists that participate in the study start by signing a consent. After the interventionist signs a consent, the school will then identify which students the teacher will serve for intervention. We are happy to support with that process if needed. Once the students are identified for intervention, then parent consents go home and the interventionist supports us in getting those back from the students. After that, we schedule pre-measures with the students. It takes about 4 sessions. And then the intervention period begins, and then we will schedule post-measure sessions. For school districts or campuses that are close to one of our study sites, we will come and administer those pre and post measures. If you're outside of our boundaries, then we do have opportunities for extra compensation to have the interventionists support us in administering the pre and post measures. The interventionists themselves also complete pre and post assessments to better understand their strengths. And then finally, teachers participate or have the opportunity to participate in occasional focus groups or individual interview sessions, which also have provided additional compensation. This is a randomized control trial. What that means is half of the teachers, approximately half of the teachers, will be assigned to business as usual. The other half of the teachers will be assigned to fraction face-off. If the American Institutes for Research randomizes you into the business as usual or BAU track, teachers will in that track receive follow-up training on fraction face-off. That should say for the 25-26 school year. So during the 24-25 school year, if you're a business as usual teacher, your students will get pre and post assessments, but you'll continue to teach intervention in whatever way you had already planned prior to fraction face-off. These teachers in the business as usual track receive $250 in compensation and are eligible to take the fraction face-off training for the 25-26 school year at no additional cost. Fraction face-off teachers participate in 9 hours of virtual synchronous or asynchronous training. This is broken down into chunks. The first initial chunk is 3 hours, and it's designed to support teachers in understanding high quality intervention, fractions, and also go through the fraction face-off materials and get a better understanding for the materials themselves and how to utilize all the resources that are provided. Then after that, every 6 lessons, there are individual lessons for each lesson that quickly go through the expectations for the lessons and support teachers in preparing for the lesson they're going to teach. So fraction face-off teachers participate in the 9 hours of professional development. They provide 36 sessions of fraction face-off, and they get to keep all the materials. So the Blackline Masters, the implementation ready pack, and the curriculum are all given to the teacher, and they get to keep those materials. In addition, they receive $500 in compensation. So what we can offer to you is an evidence-based Tier 2 intervention support for students, access to the What Works Clearinghouse materials for interventionists during and after the project, ongoing professional learning, and coaching support. So we do observations in our fraction face-off classrooms and provide ongoing coaching support, and we provide a stipend. What we need from you is students that are going to be receiving intervention during the school day, assistance with the consenting process, access to the interventionist for professional learning days, and understanding that some teachers will be randomly assigned to business as usual and others will be randomly assigned to fraction face-off. And we also have a memorandum of understanding with the school district. We hope that you will reach out to us for further questions. Thank you so much for your interest.